entertain you for however long it takes to get through this rather formidable piece of paper. Pretty much everything is here, but what I'm going to be interested in, obviously, is getting a bit more feedback from all of you and getting a few more sort of insights from you lot. So you're going to be part of this little experiment. I hope you're up for that. As Anton said, I'm a fencing coach and an artist, so maybe kind of a creative kind of person. And if you have some affinity with tarot, which I'm guessing you all do, and you kind of know what that means, there's kind of a good resonance there with the Suit of Swords. When I first started learning the tarot, as someone who had this sort of particular thing for swords and sword fighting and everything, I was very, very much aware of all the tarot imagery for the Suit of Swords. And found out, I was quite surprised, it was all very depressing, all very gloomy and all seemed rather negative. I couldn't quite get this because all the other suits seemed to be, they'd had the down moments, so they'd also have some probably positive ones too. We found it very difficult to go through the Suit of Swords and actually find the really positive aspects there. So this was a bit of a confusion for me. And at that point, I'd ask what you kind of think. What was your impression when you first started tarot and the Suit of Swords, and how did you make sense of that? Anyone sort of notice anything odd there?
Apart from what you just said, that it's
kind
of grim, but then it also depends from the deck, I guess. Yeah, so
does anyone have maybe a really positive tarot deck regarding the Suit of Swords? So I started with the Rider-Waite, and that has a fairly grim look. But
I found odd, and I find actually thought can be quite positive in some cards of swords.
Which ones would you say?
Sword Chronicles.
Which cards?
Like
this one.
No, I like for example 2 of swords. I find it really positive.
Yeah.
Or 6 of swords also really. I feel the energy, like really positive light energy.
The 6s, to be fair, the 6s do tend to be a little bit more positive like that.
Yeah. But also like for playing for 2, because in many other decks the 2 of swords is usually predicted quite more like conflict, but in the thoughts I can feel really like peaceful energy. When I get it, I just feel really relaxed.
Okay, that's good.
No, I agree actually. I think at the top it's science, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it looks, or appears to be quite different from the Rider-Waite sort of journey image.
Yeah.
And I've never managed to reconcile the two actually, and so are they, or maybe they're not meant to fit.
I think we'll get to that shortly.
Okay.
Actually, let's have a little look closer. So the aim of this session is to offer some reconceptions of the Suit of Swords. And we're adopting some fairly orthodox interpretations of a number of cards as indicative of a cyclical life journey. Everyone understands that theory? Yeah, good. If you are nodding, the idea that each of the suits numbered from 1 to 10 is kind of like a journey that you go through. When you get to number 10, you kind of find yourself back at 1 because these sort of cycles that happen in life. So hopefully that will make sense to us. The idea with this path of swords is we're going to basically go on a series of little journeys. We're going to run through the suit a few times. Subsequent times will hopefully be a little bit faster. And each time we're going to basically ask you to use your imagination a little bit to conceive of the Suit of Swords in a particular context. Maybe like there'll be a narrative or a story and what the suit will actually be doing, sort of giving you a bit of an understanding of this particular story as it goes, and then you can maybe try and bring in your intuitions a little bit. And a little bit of an advanced warning, I've been reading Henry's excellent Path of Initiation. It's very good, very insightful. One thing he says, which is very, very hit home very acutely, is be careful of your intuitions, because a lot of the things going on with tarot, you may get intuitions there, but there is also a system that we're working to. So the intuitions are great, and every intuition you have which is insightful is excellent and very valuable, but also be aware of maybe jumping to a conclusion and getting the wrong intuition matching up to the wrong card maybe, because you might find yourself misinterpreting or ignoring something when actually there was a bit more meaning there, but that will make more sense in time. Okay, so what characterises the Suit of Swords? Well, broadly speaking, the swords represent intellect, ideals and creativity. In relation to the other suits, the swords are active, a bit like the wands or staves. Kind of makes sense. They're a bit more mental than physical, so kind of a bit more like the cups in that regard. And they're also kind of opposed to the discs in terms of nature. Does this make sense to everyone? So the discs are maybe a bit more receptive and a bit more physical, materialistic. The sword's a bit more airy, a bit more mental, a bit more active. I did a little thing online, there's a link there, and is anyone familiar with disc type profiling?
No.
Disc type profiling,
It's a kind of personality profiling which looks to me to have extremely strong kind of correlation with the tarot suits, and it's been used quite a lot nowadays in like life coaching and similar kinds of things. So if you're interested, you can look at that, and it's literally the first time I heard it, I went, this is very much like the tarot. So it's quite an interesting matchup. We also find symbols and swords being used all the time in our language. It's very commonplace. I just put a few down here, but I'm sure you can think of many others. Like justice, for example, with the blade alongside the scales. Alexander cutting through the Gordian knot with his blade, representative of the ability of the mind to find new solutions where maybe none appear. Knights upholding noble ideals. Martial arts culture associating swordsmanship with maybe painting and calligraphy, this kind of artistic side of the sword play. The sword and the stone representing the right to rule, that's like with Arthurian legend. Wordplay and swordplay, literally there's only one S difference in the two. Cutting remarks, getting the point, associating words with blades. Occam's razor in philosophy. Does that everyone understand Occam's razor?
No.
Heard it? Occam's razor is a principle whereby if you remove all the bits which aren't relevant, you get to the bit which is relevant. So you're kind of cutting away the excess to find the important.
Kind of crap.
Yeah, cutting the crap. I like that. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Last one is a bridge of swords to the other world in Arthurian legend. The mythology there. So they're everywhere, all over the place, and I'm sure all the suits will have this kind of thing. It makes sense because if the suits are really, really fundamental aspects of our existence and our sort of perceptions, then you will find these themes resonating throughout time and time again, all the symbols and the myths and legends. Why do you think swords are used symbolically to represent these things? As a puzzle. So of all the symbols they could choose, why did they choose a sword? What was most appropriate about that? At this point, I'll just pause for a second to see if anyone has any ideas on that one. Why do you think they chose a sword to represent creativity and intellect? Why not a pen? I mean, seriously, could you think of another symbol?
I mean, this goes back hundreds and hundreds of years,
It does.
doesn't it? I mean, even with the early Visconti decks, they had swords. So it's not something that Rider-Waite came up with. It's not something Arthur Edward Waite came up with.
You can make a clear cut with a sword.
Well, it's inherently destructive, like, because when you use your intellect to analyze anything, you are taking it apart to look at the nuts and bolts, and I think that's the fundamental reason why, anyway. Because if you also look at, because the sword represents the legal system as well, so you can see how everything is in the detail, you know, you're looking closely at things. And again, the cutting through the bullshit, the illusions, all that stuff, you know, that's why we have logic, you know. So yeah.
I actually think it's also like actually connected with what I'm saying, because if you have a sword, but you don't have a brain and don't know how to use it, when to use it, when to go back, when to go forward, it's pretty much useless.
Yeah, I quite like that idea, because for me, I've always found the sword to be a lot like an instrument, so by like making an analogy of a musical instrument, it takes time to attune to it. And also there are different kinds of sword, like the fencing sword I'm used to is quite flexible, not like the stereotypical rigid two-handed chop, chop, chop. It's actually something a bit more sensitive that when you fight, you're getting lots of feedback, the blades bend, it's a lot more of a sensitive process.
I was going to say, when they were the archetypes of their day, though, at the tarot deck, swords, cups, wands, staves, and discs. If the tarot hadn't been invented up until this century, I'm sure the archetypes would be different.
So what point were the tarot initially created, do you think?
Crikey, is it about like 15? 1400?
There are discussions, it might already have been
There
in
isn't
Egypt.
there actually isn't a definitive answer to
No,
that.
but it's a lot. It's hundreds and hundreds of years ago, because it started off as playing cards. The Visconti, so they were the archetypes of their day as well. Swords and staves and
Spada,
things.
spades. Yeah.
Yeah,
because I used to read those at the beginning.
yeah. Whereas today, I'm sure they would just use something completely different. You know, if tarot hadn't been invented and somebody was thinking about it now, they probably wouldn't use those symbolisms.
No, they used to play games. Tarocchi is a game.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
You know, we'd probably have samples or I don't know, or something representative of our time.
They obviously have to be very powerful symbols that have a
Yes.
kind of persistence to them. But I think maybe there will be other ones as well. But anyway, just something to think about.
Was it also associated with your status, though?
Hmm.
So if
Yeah.
men who were more educated, maybe they would have swords. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, that's just throwing it.
Yeah.
Why not? Okay, so let's go for a little journey. First journey is, I think this might be a more traditional understanding of the suit. It's taking these sort of fairly grim, scary looking images and running with that, and then we'll see where we find ourselves. So the first journey is the idea of, it's a kind of a destructive act. So this is interpreting the suit as maybe a passage through something unpleasant, a destructive act. So imagine in this case the sword as a weapon. Okay, so I mean you could think of, I think I suggest Macbeth maybe as a story, or a headsman performing his duty, or I'm sure you can think of some other parallel. Basically a situation where there's something quite unpleasant and you are trying to come to terms with it, possibly. Okay, so I'll just run through the description, I'll tell you a little story. Now, has everyone got their cards to hand? I think most people have already sorted those out. If anyone doesn't, do you want a second just to find through them?
What one is that? Which sword? Oh, the sword.
Oh, the sword, yeah.
Just just using the numbered suit swords, so 1 through 10, but not using the royals.
Oh, this is a negative sword deck. I bought it as a birthday present for myself, and then when I started reading the book, I'm thinking, my God, she's so green. She really portrayed all of them, that there's no hope. It was like...
Who can I give it now? Who can I pass it on?
It's a beautiful deck, don't get me wrong. It's just that she's painting, obviously the authors always take, give their interpretation of.
Another one of the points that Henry raises in his book, is this idea that all the concepts will contain within them the concept of their negation. So if you have a really grim concept in the suit of swords, then each card will also have the possibility of whatever, the hope or whatever that comes after despair and all of that.
It's a bit like the statement that it's not related to swords, but that I was talking about a couple of weeks ago, when someone was pointing out what is evil. If you think something is evil, then evil it will be. It's perception, really. So.
Yeah.
One thing is, it's not evil so much as the act of destruction, and then you also have to think about what you're destroying. If you're destroying something bad, then it's not bad, then, is it? Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah. Even the destruction thing is a question. I can see you segregating things, like putting one thing into a different place. Like I said, having a diagram, you move one thing into another place. You haven't destroyed it, but you've moved it apart. So you have divided without necessarily destroying.
Yeah.
You've destroyed what was originally there, the original relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Depends on the definition of destruction, really.
It's true. It's true.
Because, swords also represents how the mind categorizes stuff, especially in science, isn't that? These animals are this group, those come with that group, but then it's all arbitrary. Just depends how you cut it.
Yeah. Very true. How are we doing? Is everyone okay?
Yep.
Everyone is armed and ready to go?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Alright, so, first one, the Ace of Swords. Okay, we draw the sword at this point. You can imagine someone maybe drawing the sword and resting the blade of the intellect upon the breast of the world. It's almost like getting the sword ready, putting it in position. And we move on to the 2. The 2 is a pause. At this point, cut has not happened, but it's about to happen, and it's sort of a pregnant pause, because you know there's this potential there, there's something that's about to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. So this kind of moment of possibility.